Hello and welcome, I am Arumba, thank you for joining me. So I have excellent news. At long last, product Battlestation is complete. If you've been around for about, say, 6 months or so, you probably remember when I started Project Battlestation. This is a plan to upgrade my computer to newer standards. My current rig is actually pretty good. It's about 2 years old now, and it's still very good. I mean, I'm very happy with it. But when I built it strictly for gaming. I had no idea that I'd be using it for YouTube, that I'd be encoding and editing and all that nonsense. And so I ended up, building it not quite the right way for the work that it was going to end up doing. So I sought to build a computer that would be more apt to everything that I do with it. So, without further ado, here's what we've done. I've just bought it. I ended up using, I just bought pretty much every component from Amazon. I don't like using multiple retailers just because I don't like mail coming in different places, and I really trust Amazon when it comes to mail. I mean, they've worked really well for me in the past, and I bought a Naga Razer Hex, which is it's a gaming mouse, and I had it for like 6 weeks, and it stopped working, and their return policy is 30 days. I just called them up and said it doesn't work anymore. They took it back. So it's just, little things like that. Plus Amazon, I kind of rank Amazon up there with Google as far as trustworthiness in my mind. I love Google. I know that some people think Google is this thing that's not safe or bad or just going to consume the world or something, but I, for one, am looking forward to being controlled by our Google overlords. I think they'll do good things for us. So anyway, without further ado, let's talk about the actual computer. So now, I do want to preface this by just mentioning that you are perfectly allowed to criticize my build. I'm perfectly willing to read your comments, and if you think I've made a mistake, by all means, let me know. But before you comment and say that I've made a mistake, just please understand one thing. This is not just a gaming rig. So don't come to me saying things like, you don't need 32 gigabytes of RAM, that's just hogwash. Because guess what? I do video editing, and yes I do. I need lots of RAM, and RAM is good. So just don't just come in and just say, oh, you'll never use it, no game needs that much RAM. I understand that, but just understand that this computer is used 50% for gaming, 50% for encoding and editing. So it's not apples to apples, so to speak. Anyway, without further ado, I know I've said without further ado 3 times, but here we go. So we're going with the Intel Core i7 4930K 3.4 gigahertz 6-core processor. The reason for this specific processor is that it's very, very fast. The stock gigahertz, it's good, it's fine. The fact that it has extra cores, it's got 6 cores, makes it very good. One website that I liked to use in trying to decide what to buy is this logical increments thing. It's a very easy website, and the other website that I used was Passmark to compare high-end CPU systems and stuff like that. So we ended up choosing the Intel Core i7 4930. So we just searched for 4930. We'll find out that the Intel Core i7 4930 at 3.4 gigahertz is very powerful relative to other processors that are out there. And what I really like about it is the price relative to the amount of actual power that you get. Everything else is far more expensive, and there are plenty that are not as good that cost more. This is just a very solid, good processor for the price. I'm not just going crazy and spending idiotic amounts of money. I'm spending a lot of money, but I'm spending good money, I think. Money that's well justifiable. So I like this processor for that reason, and the fact that it's got those 6 cores is very good. It's very good for doing anything that requires hyperthreading, so using Handbrake, for instance, or using Sony Vegas, things that can take advantage of hyperthreading and run simultaneous processes and all that stuff. So it's very good. When we look at the processor from here, we can see that the i7 4960 is very high rated there. It's not the 4960, we got the 4930, but it's close enough, it's good, it's good. Anyway, moving on. I ended up going with a Noctua CPU cooler just because it's a little bit quieter than some of the other things that are out there. The decibels is very important. Keep in mind, decibels are on a logarithmic scale, so if you go up by 10, you're increasing the volume by 2, I believe, if I remember correctly. Or no, sorry, tenfold? No. You go up by 2, it's twice as loud. That's right, logarithmic. So some of the other CPU coolers out there might have 30 to 37 decibels. So this one's going to top out at 22.5 decibels. Should be very quiet. Shouldn't even be able to tell that it's running, which is important when you're recording. I ended up going with an ASRock again. In some of the previous streams, I had been looking at a gigabit or gigabutt or boot or something. I don't remember. Some other motherboard. My current motherboard is an ASRock, and I haven't had any complaints with it at all. I find their website to be perfectly easy to use. Very good with updating their BIOS and making all of your available drivers available. It's good. It's good. I really liked it. I ended up having to switch to this one because the one that I was looking at, the gigabit, or gigabyte, I don't remember what it was called, was not shippable through Amazon anytime soon, and I just didn't want to wait. I don't want to wait, so I ended up going with ASRock because that reason, basically. Now, the great thing about it, though, is that it actually increased the available speed from 2133 for the memory up to 2400, and I wanted 2400, but I didn't want to pay for the Asus Rampage, which was like $400 in order to get that speed, which Asus Rampage, of course, is like one of the top ones up here. And so I did some comparisons and everything, and I think this ASRock motherboard is going to do very well. It's got great reviews here and on Amazon, so everything about it's good. It's only $200, not that much for a motherboard really, but it's pretty good. I'm happy with it. And most importantly, what saves me money, why it's not quite so expensive, is that it is capped out at 32 gigabytes of max memory. So it's got 4 slots, they're quad channel. You cannot do more than 32 gigabytes of RAM on this thing. And that's totally fine. I'm going to go with 32. I will not be upgrading the amount of RAM on this computer. I figure that with DDR4 coming out within the next, say, year or so, when I build the next computer, I will probably just go with the DDR4 then. I don't see upgrading this computer at all. It'll probably last me 2-3 years maybe less, I don't know, who knows. So I figure just buying a motherboard that can only handle 32 gigs is fine, because I'm not going to upgrade. Makes me happy. I'm good. We're going with the Corsair Vengeance Pro, 32 gigabytes, 4x8 sticks at 2400 speed. Now, the only thing about this entire build that kind of bugged me a little bit is that when I was looking at the Corsairs that are rated at 2400, they're all voltaged at 1.65 volts. Like, you have to up the voltage in order to get them stable. And the ones that they had for sale that were at 2133 were stable at 1.5 volts, which is just better. Makes it just simpler. You don't have to worry about fudging the voltage in order to keep the RAM running properly and not having any blue screen issues. But everything that I've read about Corsair, I've actually never owned Corsair RAM. Everything I've read, though, says that Corsair is a top brand, nothing to worry about when it comes to stability, and that, like, you're paying good money to have RAM that can run at this speed. So I'm willing to risk it. It's fairly pricey for RAM, but well, I want it. I just want 2400 speed RAM. I want 32 gigs of it. The timings are a bit slower than I would like, but then again, you're getting that 2400 speed. So again, before you come in and say that you don't need that much RAM and you'd be better off going with, you know, faster timings on the 1600 speed RAM, no, that's not true. If you have 2400 speed and you have a longer CAS timing than, say, 1600 speed RAM, you have to also factor in that it's running faster. So a CAS of 11 may actually be better than a CAS of 9, depending on the actual speed of the RAM. So, but that's actually kind of beside the point, because I do lots of parallel, or sorry, that's the wrong term, sequential processes, and like sequential read-writes. Okay, so follow me on this. When I pull a 80 gigabyte Fraps file off of the data drive and have it chunk its way through Handbrake or Sony Vegas, it's reading and pulling information rapidly from that drive, putting it into RAM so that the processor can work on it and then put it onto the actual output drive. So the CAS timing, yes, that's most important for things like gaming, because that's how quickly you're able to actually pull information and like get things going and open programs and whatever and all that stuff. But once you've got a program running and it's pulling data sequentially, the speed, the 2400, is what's more important. How fast can it do it? Not how quickly can it start doing it. So I feel very comfortable with this RAM. I'm happy with the brand. I'm happy with the speed. And it's too late. I've already bought this computer, by the way. I did this right before starting this video, so you cannot persuade me otherwise. But feel free to try if you want to. I'll listen. I will, and I will take your feedback into consideration for the next build. But you know, this is what I bought. So We're gonna go with the Samsung 840 EVO 250 gigabyte 2.5-inch solid state disk. Right now I have 120 and it's perfectly acceptable. The reason that I went with the 250 for this new computer is because there's a slight speed upgrade when you upgrade to the 250. So I have the 120 and it's fantastic. It's just great. If you want to buy a budget SSD, get one of these things at the 120. They're only like, what, 90 bucks these days. Not much for an SSD. You can put your operating system and all of your games on the SSD, and then put all your videos and music and everything else on a secondary actual hard disk drive, and your games will just run like crazy. But I wanted to get, I was either going to get the same one that I currently have because I think it's sufficient. You know, my operating system's only like 30 gigs, although it does get bloated over time because Windows just does that. But I format every now and then, so it's not a big deal. But anyway, you got a sequential write speed advantage of 520 megabytes a second versus 410 on the 250 gigabytes. So I decided to get this one simply because that seemed like a logical upgrade, and it wasn't that much more money. I mean, you're paying, instead of 90 bucks, you're paying 140, and you're getting more than double the space. And you never know. I mean, what I'm planning on doing at this point is using the data drives for Fraps storage, putting them in a RAID 0 format, and then I'm going to actually have the encoder work on the, it's going to output to the SSD now, instead of outputting to the data drive. In the current system, it's reading from the drive and outputting to the drive. I haven't really seen any kind of read-write bottlenecks, but I just think that it might be better to run it that way, to run it off the data drive onto the SSD. And if it's a 250 gigabyte SSD, there should be room to put output files. Now, I already own one of these things. I have a Seagate Barracuda 2 terabyte, 3.5-inch, 7,200 RPM internal hard drive. I'm going to be scrapping this one out of this system and putting it into the new rig. And to go along with it, I'm buying 2 more. It's very important. You have to have the same size drive, and it should just be the same exact model, same company, same everything about it. So, RAID, if you're not familiar, redundant array of independent disks. I'm going to be basically converting these 3 2 terabyte drives into a single one drive thing that's going to split the data into 3 chunks. So it's going to just put all the data on all 3 drives, meaning that I can read and write 3 times, roughly, as fast as a single drive. However, it triples or more the likelihood of failure. If one drive dies, they all die. However, most of the Fraps files that I have, I only keep on the computer for a day at most, and then they go away. So I'm not really worried about losing data. I just want to increase that read speed because I've actually found that Fraps will record such large files in such massive bitrate that I actually get read bottlenecks on my encoding. So as I'm trying to pull data from the drive, there's just so much that it physically can't pull the data fast enough for the processor to work as hard as it can. So I found that, like, when I'm encoding a Fraps file, I might get, say, 70% of my processor working its tail end off. When I encode something that's not from Fraps, like any other video, like if I run it through Fraps once and then I run it through, if I run it through Handbrake once and then I run the output file through Handbrake at a higher encode setting or something again, well, since there's fewer kilobits a second, it's way, way faster. And the full processor, 100% processor usage, hyper-threaded like crazy, super fast and awesome. So I figure by going with RAID 0 with 3 drives, there will just be no issue with any kind of bottleneck at all. And they're very cheap, so not too worried about that. Now, I decided to go with just a single graphics card because I do not play first-person shooters, primarily. I ended up going with the EVGA GeForce GTX 780 Ti 3GB super overclocked ACX video card because over here you'll see that the GTX 780 is very good. This is basically the GTX 780 Ti times 2. The Ti is the one that I got. It's the 780 Ti. I'm only going with 1. I don't want to go 2 because it's just silly. If I was going to go 2, it would have been just regular 780. This is a better place to see the actual comparisons. Video, high-end video. So the GeForce GTX 780 is about there as far as score goes. The 780 Ti is about 10% more performance, but you pay a lot more money. So if you're going to do 2 graphics cards, you're probably better off going with 2 GTX 780s in SLI versus having 1 of these. And you're basically, it's just better. But because most of the games that I play, like Crusader Kings 2 and EU4, are processor-based, not necessarily graphics-based, it doesn't really matter how good your graphics card is. However, I might dabble, I might play some other games, and I want to have something very good, but I don't want to do the SLI thing. Plus, I've read too many problems that are out there with games that just do not perform well under SLI. There's micro-stuttering and some other issues, and it just seems like a hassle. Plus, the other thing, this is a very important factor, is heat. Heat and sound. The more graphics cards you throw in into that case, the more cooling you need. The more cooling you need, the more fan noise you have. Not to mention, the graphics cards themselves have extra fan noise. So I just settled on one solid graphics card, spending quite a bit of money on this thing, but it should stand the test of time and do everything that I need. Now, the great thing about GeForce is that since this is an NVIDIA graphics card, NVIDIA has a ton of something called CUDA cores or some crap, and so it works really well with programs like Sony Vegas to help with rendering. So that's the other factor. I figured, well, I'd like to have one NVIDIA card that's really good that can help out with processing while I'm encoding in Vegas. So if I decide to do more editing, it'll work well. So we got the hex core processor plus a good graphics card that has CUDA cores that will do stuff. So it's good. And almost done. To wrap this all up, I ended up going with a Corsair Vengeance ATX form factor mid tower case. I don't need a full tower case. This is it's just cool. You know, it's fine. It's supposed to look like a military computer or something. I actually wanted a different one, but they wouldn't be available within the same shipping time frame. So that's fine. So we just said, you know, get this one. That's cool. I mean, it looks fine. I like how it's got like the military style buttons and everything, and that's fine. If you want to see, the one that I wanted was I'll show you. Go to system build. How do we even do this? I don't even know how to start a new build. Maybe I can show you from a saved parts list. It was not the tower fractal, not the fractal, the Phantom. I wanted this thing. This thing looks sick. But when you try to buy this thing on Amazon, it's just not available. You can't add it to cart. There's just a problem with it. For some reason, it's just not purchasable. I thought this one looked pretty sweet. But anyway, it doesn't matter because I didn't buy it. So, we're back to the current part list. Look at this, I'm on version 5. I've been really spending a lot of time looking at this thing. Okay, so we got the mid-tower case, and then finally the power supply, 750, fully modular. It's fine. I don't really care if it's fully modular or semi-modular. It doesn't make any difference to me. They both basically function the same. There's certain elements to a power supply you're always going to use, so I don't really see any huge advantage to a fully modular power supply versus semi-modular. I definitely would not go with a non-modular power supply. That is too old-fashioned for me. And this is a question that I think some people will be interested in seeing the answer to. I am going to stick with Windows 7. I am going to not use Windows 8. I do not care what the performance benefits are of Windows 8. I do not care that they are completely backtracking on everything that they said about, you know, they're going to be, I think with Windows 8 sucked. Windows 8.1, they kind of fixed some of the start menu, Metro crap problems. And then I read recently an article said that like Windows 8.2 is going to bring back the start button and like allow you to fully hide Metro. I don't care. It's just too little too late. Windows 8 is just toxic and I do not want it. Anything that has Metro on it, that stupid hybrid tablet BS, just get the hell off my computer. I want Windows 7. This is a desktop. I do not want tablet garbage on this rig. So now there may be some people who think Windows 8 is so superior that I should go with it, and then I'm being unfair, but I also think that Windows just has they have a tendency to, I read that they fired the guy who made Windows 8. Like, it was such a flop that they fired the guy that was heading up that project. I also know from experience that Windows has a tendency to make good operating system, bad operating system, good operating system, bad operating system. It just fits the mold. I mean, Windows 9 probably will be fantastic, but Windows 8, no, not going to do it. So yeah, anyway, that's the thing. Unfortunately, I missed the darn purchase by about 5 days. They just added state sales tax to internet purchases in Florida. Ended up having to pay 7% on that on top. I was like, what? 2418 times 0.07, extra almost $200. Ah, Wish I could have bought it a week ago. But that's the new rig. So I'm going to be doing some performance tests on this computer, and I'll have that information handy. And once I get the new rig built and ready to go, I'm going to do some performance tests on that one. Kind of show you guys how much better it is. And other than that, I should have it by Friday. Today's Wednesday. Or no, today's Tuesday. Tomorrow's Wednesday. Well, it's almost Wednesday. In 15 minutes. And I'll have it by Friday. I assume I'll be able to build it out and it will function by the next week. And hopefully we don't have any issues with the components. Having it all come from Amazon, I feel pretty comfortable that it should arrive in good order. And of course I have Prime, so I'm excited to see it arrive pretty quickly. So I don't have the information handy, but I do want to personally thank anyone that did contribute to the Project Battlestation funds 6 months ago. It wasn't stalled for any reason other than moving and building the office. All of my additional resources and funds that I had available were being put toward building the office, and I spent a couple $1,000s on that, and it really postponed my ability to do a new computer. But anyone that did do that, appreciate it. And probably when I do the next video about Project Battlestation, I'm planning on recording some of the assembly. I don't really want to go too into it, but you know, putting it together is kind of cool for people that are interested in that kind of stuff. If you've never built a computer before, I highly recommend you build your own computer. It's such a great experience. You learn so much about the components of a computer, what's important for what you're doing, what's not important, how to go in and like what are all the pieces to the computer. It's one of those things. It's like somebody who knows how to build a car or take a car apart. Like, you got to know all your components. You just got to learn it. So I figure a few people might be interested in watching the build. But okay, that's my long rant. That's what I'm doing. I just did it. I just spent $2,600, so figured you guys might be interested. Hopefully this isn't a humble brag. I'm not trying to make you feel like, oh god, he spent so much money on a computer. My reasoning for doing this is that I am used to spending large amounts of money on my business. You know, when I was in the insurance industry, I was used to spending almost 20 to 30 grand a year on the business, whether it was buying suits, ties, paying for lunches, buying contest rewards for my agents. I mean, there were times I'd go to Chicago and spend $3,000 on suits. So, to me, if you're going to do YouTube, do it right. Spend money on your craft. Don't be cheap. And this is the way I'm making a living right now, so I think it's essential that I invest in my craft, and this is how I do it. This is my tool. You know, farmers will spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a tractor. Seriously. Like, if you look it up, go Google this. Farmers will spend $300,000 on a new combine or more. Sometimes those damn things are $1 million. And I've heard that, like, they'll send you a golden key when you buy one of these things as a status symbol among farmers because you bought a $1 million tractor. So the point being that farmers buy expensive tractors, insurance agents buy expensive pins and ties and suits, and YouTubers should buy good computers because that's their job. So anyway, that's my logic on it. Again, hopefully you're not taking it the wrong way. I don't mean it in a in any way other than what I just explained. So, okay, thank you so much for watching. If you watched to the end, I look forward to seeing you in the next video, and please do let me know if you'd be interested in seeing a full build, full recording of the build. You get to see my hairy forearms, and in about 40,000, 35,000 subscribers, you get to see my face. This is exciting. All right, thanks for watching, everyone. See you soon.